Okie dokie. Today I will be talking about basic essential music theory. So, take 4 dots. Each of those dots is a beat. 4 of those that are made up of all quarter notes, that is a bar. Now how many beats you put per second is usually associated with this thing called tempo. Usually faster tempo feels more energetic. Makes sense. A lot of club music, EDM music tends to be a little bit faster. You're not waltzing through that one. And then for each of these quarter note beats, you can choose, well, you can choose all 12 notes if you want, but we're not quite there yet. To start with all the white keys, that will either be C major or A minor. What makes a major scale or a minor scale is the pattern to get from one note to the other. In major, it's whole step, half step, whole step, whole step, whole step, half step. And with minor, it's arranged differently. Just look at how you go from starting from A or starting from C. And then harmony is when you have multiple notes playing at the same time, and some of this can be, I guess, suggested. Like if you're playing an arpeggio, instead of literally just playing all 3 notes at the same time. Usually the easiest way to think about playing a chord is just skip one note on the white keys. Then, yeah, that would be me. And yeah, each of the 7 notes of the scale have a different function when it comes to the harmony. Building a chord on the note that the scale starts on in the major scale is the most stable sounding, homey sounding chord. It's the one where you want to start and end a couple of bars of music on, right? The minor chords sound sad and yeah, I don't really have much more to say on that right now. So the second, third, and sixth note on a scale are minor. The first, the fourth, and the fifth are major. The 7th is something called diminished. We're not going to touch that anytime soon. Okay, and now we're going to talk about melody. So melody can be influenced by harmony. If you use the notes in the scale, it sounds stable, like that note's supposed to be there with that chord or arpeggio playing at the same time. So if you play notes that aren't in that scale, it's going to want to go back to the notes in the scale so it sounds stable, like resolved, like the question that the first part of a phrase presents is getting answered. I don't remember the fancy word for this, but it's a very easy way to write melody. It's called call and response. The first part sounds like a question, the second part sounds like an answer, like do 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 do. Not really that great of a melody, but yeah, it works. And then what else? That's one way to write a melody. And another thing is just patterns. Patterns and rhythms, patterns and how you jump from note to the next note. You don't want to keep jumping like an octave very rapidly because that just sounds too chaotic. You don't want to just keep going one note to the next because then it just sounds like you're playing scales. A reasonable balance of the two, having some level of predictability in the rhythms you use and how you jump from notes, the intervals, gaps, whatever you want to call it, that's the technical term. That's how you make a good melody. Somewhat of predictability and somewhat of breaking it. So that's just exciting to the brain for some reason. I don't know all the neuroscience of it, but that is what it is. And yeah, and then the last thing I'll touch on is timbre or texture. A piano at middle C is going to just sound different than a guitar at middle C because the harmonics and the frequency distribution of those two instruments are different, and the volume and harmonic rise and fall. Like if you look at what the harmonics are halfway through a piano note playing, it's going to be different than right when the hammer hits. You can manipulate this quite in depth with synthesizers and samplers, but that's next video on music production. Yeah, a good way to practice melody writing is just write parodies like your Weird Al. And a good way to get better at, or not writing, sorry, I mixed it up. The good way to get used to writing lyrics is write parodies. A good way to write melodies is easiest way to write a melody. I guess just take like a poem you like and just hit random keys, or not random keys, but try first coming up with a melody on a piano and then just breaking up at each syllable and seeing how that would work well. Like if you had 4 syllables and that's all you have, you could just do quarter note, quarter note, quarter note, quarter note, quarter note. And then, yeah. I mean, there's all these great sites like MuseScore, Hook Theory, all these sites where you can just look at sheet music, MIDI data that you can just put into your digital audio workstation, and you can just look at the patterns of what works. You've seen that thing on how pop music kind of revolves around the same like chord structure at 145. I think country music has a very common pattern too. Can't remember it off the top of my head, but it wouldn't surprise me if it's very similar to the pop music one. And yeah, I think that's good for this video.